How did you come out of poverty, being broke? Story 1. I was homeless, bouncing from shelter to shelter. Hustling, running weed and pills for people to scrape together a session at the end of the day. One day my cousin took me with him to a place called Labor Ready. It's just a place where construction companies etc. pick up a day laborer, and at the end of the day you go back to the office and they cut you a check for the day's work. Well, when I got to that job site, the other punks I was working with from the agency were lazy and slow and complaining all day, barely doing anything. It pissed me off. We were hired to work. So I worked my absolute guts out. We were digging mud out of the basement of an abandoned farmhouse that was being restored. The boss came during the day and saw me carrying 2 steel 5-gallon pails filled to the top with mud up the stairs and out the back door constantly, while the other 2 were barely filling 1 2-gallon drywall mud pail. He took me aside and said, "You're not going back to the agency tomorrow, you're hired." From there I continued to work my guts out for him and eventually was promoted from laborer to a carpenter's apprentice. I learned a few trades there since they were a general contractor. From there I moved on to other companies and continued learning new trades. Today I'm a jack of all trades, making good pay. I do everything. Windows and doors, flooring, brick and concrete repair, drywall, mud and tape, tile, siding and aluminum, you name it. I've got my own brand new van, fully kitted out with all the best tools I could possibly need to do any job. And my work is appreciated because I am meticulous and hard-working. And that's how I went from pinching out of weed bags and sleeping at a mission to owning a house and vehicles with a good job. Edit. Thank you so much for the positive response, guys. I haven't told that story in years, and TBH had no idea anyone would even find it interesting. Take it from me though, if you grind hard enough, you'll go places eventually. Reply. Hell yeah. Your story is my favorite so far, and is definitely a story more young men need to hear. Women too, if they're inclined to hard physical work. The trades are where it's at. Demand is only rising. Good for you. Story 2. Finished grad school, got a decent paying job, but continued to largely live as if I was broke. Reply. That broke mentality stays with you, man. Reply 2. Sometimes that's not a bad thing. I find myself wanting something but then I have to justify it, and if I can't, then I don't get it. Story 3. Being at the right place, at the right time, talking to the right people. You can be the most talented person in the world, but if you don't know how to play the social game, and have a lot of luck, it sadly isn't going to happen. Reply. That's even on a simple level of, I'd like to do X career. Someone in the group will say, I heard Y was hiring. So you apply it. Y. Story 4. Married my way out of it. I had no idea her family were doing well because they live so frugally, but when I moved in with them to save money, after marrying her as they put it, I was put in charge of managing everyone's bills and credit cards. When I saw my father and mother-in-law's bank accounts, I at first thought it was a mistake, but when I raised it with my wife she was like no, that sounds normal. I nearly fainted. I know for bloody sure that their grandkids are going to want for nothing. Reply. I married my way out, too. My now husband moved in with his dad after his divorce. Mother-in-law had died several years prior. I moved in after we got married. That was 5 years ago. My father-in-law died this past spring. Not having mortgage, rent or utilities to pay allowed us to really get our feet under us, emergency fund, good cars, etc. Because my father-in-law was a boomer government employee and my mother-in-law was a bit more invested than was rational in life insurance, the kids have well-funded college funds, the house is paid off, and we suddenly have a retirement fund that's more than it should be for our age income. We're even able to make some of the repairs and upgrades the house has needed. Unfortunately, we did have to live with my father-in-law for those years, and he spent his life riding that toxic, abusive line pretty hard, which got worse in his last 6 months. It was not ideal. Story 5. Sacrificed comfort and focused on getting the bare minimum of what I need and how to get more money. I ate ramen and bread, slept outside, and took a shower when I could. I got a job at Walmart, then Ross, the clothing store. Found a cheap motel to stay at with a girlfriend and we scrimped and saved. But $33 a night on a $50 a day salary eats at you and it was impossible to save. Like it would have been years before I could have afforded just a car to make sure I got to work on time. So I moved into my father's place and could save up for a car. They paid for my TESOL and I used a lifetime of miles from flying between my mother and father to get a ticket to Poland. Sold the car and found myself eating potatoes in Polska till I got a job teaching English. Then the gold, PLN, was steady. Moral of this story is that poverty is a scary fucking thing and it's really hard to get out of it without friends and family. There's no easy way out and the longer you're there the deeper the holes get, especially if you start borrowing money. I still like to travel on nothing sometimes though. Hitchhike, couchsurf, and eat nothing but bread for months. Story 6. Read, learned, exercised, went to night school, got a GED, went to university, got a loan for that. Learned to live on beans and rice for 6 years, got a contract job in my industry, worked, studied, learned, took every minute of work that came my way. Gained the trust of the middle-class people around me, made them believe I wasn't some white trash loser. Read, learned, exercised, saved up $10,000, started my own business, struggled for years, failed many times and finally got here. I am 52 and still working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. Sad but true. No easy options for me, unfortunately. Reply. What industry do you work in? Reply 2. Beans and rice importer and exporter. Story 7. I grew up with drug-addicted, alcoholic parents. I've worked every day since I was 16 and stay far away from my family. My wife and kids are my rock and keep me working hard and pushing to be better. Pro tip: leave your small town and never look back. Take control and grab life by the horns. Reply. I feel like everybody needs a move away from home, even if it's literally to the next town over, or back to the town your parents moved from. It's a new slate and a fresh start, away from your old comforts and habits. Story 8. I went back to school at 24 to get a degree in CS, got an internship at a big tech company and converted it to a full-time offer at the end of the internship. Now I make insane money. I worked full-time with a lot of mandatory overtime during the entire period I was in college. It was brutal, but ended up being worth it. Reply. Same. I eventually managed to get off disability and get a CS degree. I basically doubled my standard of living from when I was living on disability and still had boatloads of money to save and invest. I haven't needed to work since my late 30s, but I still like solving problems, so I'm still at it. I'll probably retire in my mid-40s. Story 9. I sacrificed time with my family to work extra hours. Yes, it was worth it, but it still hurts when my kids tell me that the only memories they had of me in those times was of me sleeping or being at work. Reply. I don't know. My pops always tells me that it wasn't worth it. We've had a few good talks about why all his children resented him during those times that he was work. 2 summers in a row I didn't even see my pops since he worked an hour from where we lived, and worked 16 hours a day. Because of this, I work as little as I have to so long as I still have what I need, and my kiddo is taken care of. But if it worked for you, awesome. I'm not here to be mean or anything. I just think of it like this. Time is the most valuable resource in life. Not one time have I ever heard of someone on their deathbed wishing for one more day of work. Story 10. Grew up poor. I am good at learning and my country has affordable education. Getting into university is a matter of getting a diploma from the right level high school, which I did. I then went to university and got a good job. I now pay more in taxes than my education cost the government. It should be that simple anywhere. Hey, stop. You're pretty awesome. Subscribe for more. Yo.